Why is TRT such a buzzword and such a popular thing that so many young men have started to hop on? Men in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s have been seriously considering getting on and starting a TRT routine. TRT actually comes with many side effects. The side effects are very detrimental for your overall physical health and mental health. The effects that are supposed to be the benefits from TRT aren't actually as pertinent and prominent as people may expect. Now, a lot of influencers like Micah Malak, How To Beast, Joe Rogan, Bradley Martin, More Plates, More Derek, just to name a few, have been talking about TRT. And some of these guys actually have their own TRT clinics of themselves. So why is TRT so popular? Well, first and foremost, people like instant gratification. They want quick results. So TRT seems like the easiest way to boost testosterone levels without having to do any work on the back end. You just take an injection and then you get a result and your blood level changes. Now, I'm going to tell you in this video exactly why that is a terrible idea. TRT is not a solve-all problem. TRT actually comes with many side effects, and the effects that are supposed to be the benefits from TRT aren't actually as pertinent and prominent as people may expect. Now, getting back to those influencers who talk about TRT and talk about these different hormone replacement therapies, they all have achieved success in their lives before starting to get on TRT. Now, there may be some people like Joe Rogan and Derek and Bradley Martin who have taken some other performance-enhancing drugs in their early career in order to get ahead of the competition. But for the most part, these people on TRT are not successful because they took TRT. They are just using TRT because they've gotten to a point in their lives where they feel like it is important for them to optimize their testosterone, and they want to take a fast track to the good life. Now, testosterone itself is not just going to suddenly cause you to have great libido, great erections, great motivation, great work life, no depression. Testosterone is just a hormone that the body produces naturally. Now, why is testosterone so important? Testosterone is important because people need testosterone, men and women, in order to have properly functioning sexual health. And on the front, everything seems good. Everything seems safe, but behind the scenes, there is a dark side to TRT. Most doctors and TRT clinics prescribe TRT because it is able to alleviate the symptom of low testosterone. And the symptom of low testosterone comes from blood tests. When the blood tests are below a certain reference range, certain TRT clinics and doctors will prescribe testosterone replacement therapy. Some TRT clinics actually prescribe to people who are above the reference range just so that they can get another customer into their clinic and get them onto other drugs. For example, things like finasteride because of the hair loss that comes with taking TRT, and that's just one of the many side effects that we'll get into. Now, most men don't actually realize that TRT is a steroid. Now, is it a steroid that you get from a sketchy guy at the gym? No, it's a steroid you get from your doctor, so you expect it to be safe, right? Well, unfortunately, the doctors here are just trying to fix the symptoms, and once you start getting the side effects of TRT, they're just gonna continue to prescribe more medications and more hormone replacement therapies in order to mitigate the symptoms from the TRT that you're taking in the first place. Now, I will say TRT is actually beneficial for some people, and these people are people who have some sort of pituitary gland tumor or some sort of brain tumor where their body isn't able to send signals to their testes to produce testosterone. That is a very valid reason, and TRT is very beneficial to those people. So that is why TRT got so popularized, because for some people, it actually is a medicine that they need. And unfortunately, a lot of men want to find the shortcut, and they think that, oh, my body can already create its natural testosterone, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to hack the system and find a way to circumvent that natural production and just inject testosterone right into my butt. Injecting TRT always makes you feel like you're at a loss, because when you're doing natural testosterone production through your actions and through your lifestyle, your body is going to be getting other chemicals and other systems are going to be in play that optimize your health and make you feel good. Now, let me bring you in on a little known fact. Testosterone itself isn't going to change your life. It isn't going to suddenly make you happy, make you ripped, make you get all of your goals and dreams. As someone who personally has a high testosterone naturally, I noticed that I still have symptoms of depression, symptoms of negativity, symptoms of difficulty gaining muscle in the gym and pushing past those plateaus, because testosterone is only one of the many things that you need to optimize in order to improve your overall well-being. And many of these things involve your actions, not as much of what you do when it comes to supplements and injections, but your actions and your lifestyle and your diet and your sleep and those basic roots. For most of my adult life, action is what has been mattering most. For sex, for motivation, for drive, for work, the action of taking progress and working towards something in your life has way more benefit than any synthetic exogenous injections will ever have. The satisfaction is in the journey, and it's not just about crossing the finish line to hit a certain number of your testosterone level, but to get to a point where your body is as optimal as possible. So not only is having healthy testosterone levels important naturally, but there's also side effects if you try and take the shortcut and just inject exogenous testosterone. One of the side effects of people that use TRT is higher hematocrit levels, which makes your blood thicker, which can cause a lot of issues with your cardiovascular health. This will lead to high blood pressure, clogged arteries, and enlarged heart. This is not only dangerous for older men who have health conditions, but also it's very dangerous for younger men because they aren't going to be able to see the results of this side effect until they're a lot older and the damage is already done. As you can see in this study, there have been 39 patients over 2 years. This is a small scale study, but the study was seeing if TRT users could donate blood to get their hematocrit level below the safe threshold, which is 54%. The study found that the hematocrit levels were already elevated in people who were taking TRT, and it also found that these people who were taking TRT and consistently donating blood still weren't able to decrease their hematocrit levels because of the blood donation. They still had above normal, above 54% hematocrit levels, which is a precursor for health and heart conditions. Another study, this one being a meta-analysis of 651 men, found that men who were on TRT were 3.67 times more likely to develop high hematocrit levels versus the men who were treated with placebos. Now, as someone who frequently gets their testosterone levels tested, I also wanted to take a look at my hematocrit levels as someone who's been able to have high testosterone naturally to see if testosterone itself was causing the high hematocrit or the exogenous testosterone was actually causing the high hematocrit levels. Now, this is just my personal experience, but if you look at my lab work here, you can see that I have a hemoglobin of 15 grams per deciliter. And then if you look at the hematocrit levels, you'll see it's 46.1%, which is well within the healthy reference range. Now, on the same study, I also got my total testosterone tested, and my total testosterone came out to 1,149 nanograms per deciliter with a very healthy in-range hematocrit level because I have not taken anything synthetic to improve my levels. There are also issues with prostate health in men who take TRT. The same meta-analysis of the 651 men have found that it's actually 1.8 times more likely to have a prostate event in men who are taking TRT compared to men who are taking a placebo. Now, this is only a slight chance increase, but it's just so silly how men want to take TRT because they think it's going to provide them such shortcuts to what they need to get, which is high testosterone. But what they're actually doing is shooting themselves in the foot, and they know that they can improve their testosterone levels naturally if they just put in the work, but they don't want to. They just want instant results. So that's why it's so crazy that men are able to take a bite out of their own prostate health in order to just get a little bit of an increase in this number and hopefully have higher energy and motivation and drive, just because they're seeing a lot of people on the internet taking these products who are successful. Now, for the younger crowd of guys who want to take TRT, some guys in their early 20s are starting to think about hopping on TRT. There's actually a really huge detriment to doing that, and that is the effect that TRT has on your fertility. See, what TRT does is it shuts down your luteinizing hormone and your follicle stimulating hormone, which tell your testes to produce testosterone, among other things. And when you have this shutdown, your body thinks it has plenty of testosterone. But what in actuality happens is your spermogenesis stops. You create this sense of, okay, my body doesn't need sperm, so you don't create sperm. And that is why men who are taking TRT are seeing an issue with fertility. Now, this is a known side effect that TRT clinics and doctors will even let their patients know A study found that men on TRT is actually a contraceptive. Now, it's not a good contraceptive. It's not going to be reliable to not have children, but it's good enough to cause a very significant change in men who are on TRT versus men who are off TRT. Now, how TRT does this is by affecting the HPG axis, which results in the spermatogenesis to basically stop and cause potential infertility within the person taking TRT. Another common misconception of TRT is people think that they're going to have great gym benefits if they just hop on TRT. The problem with that is when men are already overweight, their body is already more likely to produce estrogen. So when they're producing this estrogen and their body gets TRT injected, the testosterone gets very quickly converted into estrogen, which causes a lot of problems with their health, including things like man boobs and gynecomastia, of course, but also things like high estrogen, which will cause emotional swings and to cause problems with your mental health. And the fat cells can reproduce themselves like a virus. So this is going to be a problem for losing body fat. If you think that you're overweight and taking TRT is going to help you lose fat, it actually might cause you to gain more weight. And also it might affect your hair levels. When you take TRT exogenously, when you take testosterone exogenously, you will increase your DHT levels, your dihydrotestosterone levels, unnaturally. And what this does is communicates with the DHT receptors on your skin surface that produce your hair follicles and create hair in places on your body. And this will cause hair loss for men who have low DHT receptors. And it might even cause hair loss for men who have high DHT receptors because you're synthetically increasing your DHT levels so much, your body won't know what to do and the receptors will all be filled up. So to recap, what happens is your luteinizing hormone, your follicle stimulating hormone, your gonadotropins, they get shut down. Your sperm production will shut down and you also will have testicular atrophy. Now this isn't everyone, but it's very common for these side effects, at least one of them, to happen for most men who are consistently taking TRT. Now, I personally have my labs here, and as you can see, I have the same lab for my testosterone levels and my hematocrit levels, and you can see that my follicle-stimulating hormone is still produced. It is in the reference range, and my luteinizing hormone is actually on the higher end of the reference range, and it is still being produced naturally. There's another side effect of taking TRT, and this is elevated prolactin levels. Now, prolactin is what increases when men masturbate a lot or when men have a child. But if you increase it even higher than it's naturally supposed to do, which happens on TRT, the side effects are very detrimental for your overall physical health and mental health. When you introduce exogenous testosterone to the body, GnRH gets shut down. So GnRH naturally suppresses prolactin levels. But when it gets shut down, this is going to make your prolactin levels increase slowly but surely. The side effects of elevated prolactin are things like increased glucose sensitivity, leptin resistance, and you will also have an increase in food intake. Now, all of these things will encourage you and your body to gain weight. This increase of prolactin will also possibly cause sexual dysfunction, which means you might not be able to get it up. And it can also cause things like gynecomastia, again, the man boobies, and hypothyroidism. And the biggest one that I've seen, the most prominent with men who are on TRT, is it affects their dopamine levels. They have lower dopamine levels, which means they're usually a little bit more depressed, especially when they're trying to come off of TRT. So what do they do? What do the doctors do in this situation? They prescribe human chorionic gonadotropin. This is known as HCG, which is another synthetic substance you'll have to get on if you want to take TRT, which also has a side effect of causing man boobies or gynecomastia. All right, in conclusion, I wanted to show you my results just so you could see what some panels look like, and that having high testosterone doesn't mean you need to tank all these levels. There are ways to have naturally high testosterone by doing things naturally. You're able to live your life and achieve goals and go out and try new things and take care of your body. Make sure you're conscious of your environment, spend time in the sunshine, enjoy community, and of course, exercise and nutrition in order to increase your testosterone levels naturally. Men want the shortcut of taking TRT, but they aren't told about all the side effects that come along TRT and how it's not always likely that their body will return to normal after they take exogenous testosterone. But if you do this naturally, your body will be able to work in homeostasis in order to increase its testosterone levels and increase the benefits while also developing new skill sets and being more motivated and more excited about the work and the life that you're living. Because before you take this injection, you have to think to yourself, do I want to stick to something for the rest of my life that may have a lot of detriment and may have a lot of other things I need to start getting on in the future? Or do I want to try to do this as natural as possible so I can get the benefits for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years of my life versus trying to get higher testosterone now just because it seems like everybody you're following on social media is doing the same thing and people at the gym are doing it and people are getting all these gains. The real issue there is not being able to be consistent with yourself. So there are the dangers of TRT. Make sure you write in the comments if you have any questions or any observations about dangers, or there's some things you may not have seen. Now, if you want to get into more dangers and some more symptoms of people who are on TRT, there's Facebook groups that you can look into of other people in the TRT community doing things like showing what happens to their hair, what happens to their energy levels after taking TRT. And those aren't as scientifically researched, but those are still very important to look into because if a few people are having those symptoms, it may be more common across the board because the studies might not be out there yet. So I highly, highly recommend taking a second look and making sure you don't just hop on TRT all willy-nilly, but you take into account the dangers of TRT and you're more aware of what can happen to your body if you decide to hop on the steroid that is TRT.